Let's walk through experiments together. And experiments are one of those things that you need to do very regularly, like every 2 weeks at least, so that you can constantly test different things to see if it works. And so if you haven't noticed already, inside of your Google Ads account, when you expand the campaigns, you'll be able to see this experiments feature. When you click on that, you can, run experiments. You can see how they went over a period of time, the increase and decrease of the results. So for example, this team member tested broad match versus phrase match, and you can see that they ran it only for 10 days or so, 9 days. So if we click into this, we can see the results. We can see the original campaign, which I assume was phrase match, and then this new campaign, which was broad match, and they just tested the same campaign, same landing page, same headlines, etc., and they just ran it for 11 days on broad match to see how it compared. And so as you can see, it had 100% more conversions, which in this case, it just means one extra conversion compared to this. So the percentage makes it impressive, but it's not really that impressive. There's a lot of not enough data signals here, so that means that they need to run the campaign for longer. Not just 2 weeks, or in this case, it was 10 days. They need to run it for 20 days or 30 days to collect enough data. Because right now, there's not enough confidence intervals for them to be okay, well, broad match is 100% better. You should run broad match, right? So they need to run this more. So anyway, let me show you how to set up your own experiment. So what you need to do, let's say you got an existing campaign, it's a search campaign, and let's say you want to test a bunch of things. Maybe you want to test maximize conversions bidding strategy versus a target conversion value or TROAS. Maybe you want to test broad match versus phrase match versus exact. Maybe you want to test URL landing page A and then test against URL B, etc. Right? There's lots of cool stuff that you can test. And so if we go back over to here, here's how I recommend doing it. Click over to experiments, click the plus button. You're going to select a custom experiment. You're then going to click search. And so you might test, let's say, max conversions versus max clicks, something super simple like that, right? And then in the description, you might say, I'm just testing whether or not maximize conversions will beat maximize clicks. Okay, so that's going to then add in there, and it's okay, I'll just leave it like that. Base campaign, it selects the base campaign to duplicate, so we might select this one, all services. And for the treatment name, the treatment is basically what is the new one called? What's the new campaign that you're testing against? So this might be max clicks. So it's very clear that we know it's going to be max clicks. Maybe we want a long EM hyphen, so it looks like this. And then you've got the base campaign, which you assume is going to be max conversions by default. And then we click save and continue. And then from there, it's going to be showing you the max clicks version and say, well, what do you want changed, right? So all you need to do, if I'm just testing the bidding strategy, I click on the cog button for the settings of this new campaign. I then, when it wants to load, and then I select the bidding, and then all I do is change that to what I want. So maybe I want to test max clicks. And that's the only thing I change. Don't change anything else. Don't change headlines and all that kind of stuff, because then it's not a true test, right? There might be a time where you just want to test to see if AI Max works better. So you toggle AI Max on and you leave everything else unchanged, and you're testing that, right? I might add that to the list here. So, and then from there, the next step is to schedule. So that's the only change I made. I then go schedule, and then it's going to ask me what metrics do I deem successful, right? So I might be okay, well, I want to see the conversions and conversions value, and I want to make sure that these increase, right? I want to see that they increase. That's my goals. I want to make sure. And so the experiment split, what do I want the traffic split to be? So to be truly equal, you would send 50% of traffic to each campaign, right? That seems fair. So, but in some cases, when wouldn't you want to do this? Well, if the campaign we're splitting in half is a high performer, and the client is we can't afford to lose sales right now, then you probably wouldn't want to run this experiment at all, because you're going to split traffic in half. But two, you might want to run 20% instead, and Google will do the math for you, an equivalent. If 20% was equalized, then it will kind of work out the results for you automatically and say, well, even though you split 20% of traffic here, we still think this is a better campaign based on the pure data, if we're relative to the actual traffic. And then for duration, I would usually do 14 days minimum, depending on how much budget you're putting behind this thing. If you've got a huge budget, then 14 days will suffice, right? So click create experiment. And so from here, you just wait, right? So you can see that's maximize conversions versus max clicks. You know that it's creating, and then you've got to wait until the end date, right? And then you can come back into your experiments and you can click on it to see how it's doing. Now, Google, according to their official documentation, say that they won't show you any data for the first 7 days. That's what I recommend anyway when you're setting up your experiments. It's easier for a service business that is only running search campaigns. It's harder for people that want to experiment PMAX. They have not made PMAX as easy to experiment with. You can't just use a custom experiment with Performance Max at the time of recording and simply change one thing. They've made it a bit harder. So that we'll have to cover in a different video, and I'll see you in the next video.